Get ready to laugh out loud? Here are the 5 best jokes of the day that will have you cracking up in no time. A young doctor gets assigned to a remote village deep in the mountains, a place known for its isolation and peculiar customs. On his first day, he noticed something odd. There were no women around. Curious, he asked one of the village elders, "Is it true that there are no women here?" The elder nodded solemnly. "Yes, that's right. We haven't had women here for many years." The doctor, puzzled, then asked, "So, how do the men here handle, their desires?" Without missing a beat, the elder replied, "Oh, that's easy. There's a stable by the river. If you feel the need, just head there, and you'll find the horses." The doctor was taken aback, but he figured every place had its customs. His new home was just up the hill from the river, and over the next few weeks, he couldn't help but notice the horses down by the stable. At first, it seemed absurd, but as the days passed, and with no women in sight, the horses began to look more and more appealing. One afternoon, a few of the villagers came up to him and said, "Doctor, you've been with us a while now. Would you like to join us by the river? It might be time for you to meet the horses." The doctor, feeling it was time to assimilate into the local culture, hesitantly agreed. They led him down to the stable, where he saw the horse tied up, grazing peacefully. Nervous but determined, he started unbuttoning his shirt and fumbling with his belt. Suddenly, one of the villagers shouted in confusion, "Whoa, whoa, Doc! What are you doing?" Flustered, the doctor stammered, "I thought this is what you meant. With the horse, to handle things." The villager burst out laughing, nearly doubling over. No! We take the horses to the other side of the river. That's where the women are."
Huh?
You ever wonder why aliens haven't openly landed or invaded Earth yet? I mean, with all the sightings, you'd think by now one of them would just be like, "All right, let's park this thing and say hello." Well, I've got a theory. See, they've tried. Oh yeah, they've come down before, but they learned real quick that Earth is not the place to mess with. Picture this. 2 aliens land in the Arizona desert, right? It's late, the stars are out, they're excited to make first contact. They see this old, rundown gas station and think, "Perfect, Earth technology, let's talk to these humans." So the younger alien, he's all eager, walks up to the gas pump and says, "Greetings, Earthling, take us to your leader." Nothing. Dead silence. Now, the young alien's getting frustrated. He's like, "Hey, I said take us to your leader or I'll shoot." The older alien, he's been around the block a few times, says, "I wouldn't do that if I were you." But of course, the young alien doesn't listen. He pulls out his fancy ray gun and boom, fires right at the pump. Next thing you know, the explosion sends him flying like 200 yards, lands face first in a cactus. He's got space cactus in places he didn't even know existed. Dazed, he crawls back, looks up at the older alien and goes, How did you know that thing was so dangerous?" The older alien sighs and says, "Look, never mess with a creature that can stick its manhood into its ear while standing perfectly still."
Huh?
Mike had a bad habit that was driving his wife, Lisa, up the wall. Every evening after work, he'd head straight to the bar and spend hours drinking. He'd come home late, well past midnight, stumbling through the door, barely able to walk straight. Every night, it was the same scene. Lisa would hear the keys jingling as he struggled to unlock the door, missing the keyhole half the time. She'd get up, let him in, and lay into him about his drinking. Mike would mumble some half-hearted apology before passing out on the couch. But the next night, he'd do it all over again. One day, Lisa had had enough. Venting to her friend, she said, "I can't take it anymore. Every night he comes home drunk and it's driving me insane." Her friend, thinking she had the perfect solution, said, "Why don't you try a different approach? The next time he stumbles in, don't yell. Instead, greet him with love. Be affectionate. Maybe he'll start coming home earlier." Desperate for a change, Lisa decided to give it a try. That night, as usual, Mike came staggering through the door, smelling like a brewery. But this time, instead of scolding him, Lisa gently took his hand, helped him inside, and smiled. She took off his jacket, led him to the couch, and whispered, "It's late, sweetheart. Let's go to bed." Still swaying, Mike looked at her, confused and slurred. "What? I can't stay, honey. I gotta go home before my wife wakes up."
Huh?
In the bustling streets of Chicago, a CEO of a leading tech company, TechWave, often visited a small cafe on the corner. One day, while enjoying his coffee and having his shoes shined by Jake, a shoeshine man, an unexpected conversation began. "Hey, what do you think about the latest investments in the tech world?" Jake asked curiously. The CEO, feeling superior, replied dismissively, "Why do you care? You're just a shoeshine guy." Jake flashed a wide smile and said, "Actually, I own 80% of the shares in TechWave, and I'm considering buying more." The CEO, taken aback, quickly asked, "Wait, what's your full name?" "Jake Thompson," he replied confidently. In a panic, the CEO rushed back to his office and immediately asked his manager, "Do we have an investor named Jake Thompson?" "Jake Thompson? Oh yes, he owns 80% of our company," the manager responded seriously. With newfound enthusiasm, the CEO ran back to the cafe and said, "Jake, I want to invite you as the guest of honor at our board meeting next week." When the day of the meeting arrived, the CEO proudly introduced Jake to the board. "This is Jake Thompson, our shoeshine man. He also owns 80% of this company. We can learn so much from him about success, even from a business as simple as shoe shining. Please, Jake, share your story." Jake stood up, wiped his hands, and began to speak. "I came here 30 years ago as a young immigrant with no money and no name. When I first found a coin on the sidewalk, I had two choices: buy an apple or start a business. I chose to buy the apple. I sold the apples, bought more apples, until I decided to buy a brush and start shining shoes. I didn't spend money on fun. Every penny I saved until I could afford a better location." Everyone listened intently, inspired by Jake's story. However, at the end of his presentation, Jake casually added, "And 3 months ago, my brother, who was a drug dealer, passed away and left me $50 million.
Huh?
All right, so there's this 80-year-old guy, right? He marries a 20-year-old woman, because clearly some people are just built different. A year later, she gives birth. They're at the hospital and the nurse is like, 'Wow, sir, at your age, that's impressive. What's your secret?' And this old guy, chest all puffed out, says, 'Well, you gotta keep that old motor running.' You gotta admire that confidence. Like, in his head, he's a Mustang, but we all know he's more like a 78 Pinto. Fast forward another year, boom, another baby. Same nurse, and she's even more amazed. She's like, 'Unbelievable, you've done it again. How do you keep that engine going?' And the old guy, still feeling himself, says, 'You just gotta keep that old motor running.' Now, a third year goes by, and surprise, surprise, another baby. The same nurse is like, 'Sir, you're something else. What's the magic this time?' And this dude, still proud as ever, goes, 'Just gotta keep that old motor running.' Now here's where it gets good. Nurse leans in, smirking, and says, 'Well, that motor might be running, but you better check the oil because this one's really black.'
Huh?
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to make your day even better.